This meeting has been held remotely and also in person and will be filmed and recorded for live and subsequent broadcasts available through the Council's website. The Council is a data controller under the General Data Protection Regulations and the Data Protection Act 2018. We broadcast and record Council meetings to fulfil our public task obligation to enable members of the public to observe the democratic process. Data collected during the process will be obtained in accordance with the Council's published policies available through the Council's website. Members of the Council are reminded that they should follow the Council's established meeting protocols, including around the use of the chat facility, and that comments made in the chat facility are visible to all participants in the meeting, which may include members of the public who have also received invites to the meeting. I'll just reiterate the welcome to members of Police Scotland, members of the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, and a welcome to those who are joining us online this afternoon. Can I have apologies, substitutions and declarations of interest, please?
Apologies from Councillor Wilson. Rose Mackenzie substituting. Could you now move to a roll call? Can the following members please indicate if they are present at the meeting either in person or remotely? Councillor Cassidy.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Crowther.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Daisley. Councillor Daisley. Councillor Hillier.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Jackson.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor Law.
Present remotely.
Councillor Moran.
In the chamber.
Rose Mackenzie.
In the chamber.
Councillor Quinn. Councillor Reynolds.
Present remotely.
Councillor Daisley. Are there any?
Looks like Councillor Daisley's fallen off. Disconnected.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest?
Thank you, Lottie. Item 2 on the agenda this afternoon is the report from the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service performance report. With us this afternoon, we've got Area Commander Edward Kennan and Group Commander Rod Anderson. And I'll pass it over to you.
No, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair. I'm pleased to present another strong performance report for Q4, reflecting the continued commitment of our teams and partners in keeping Inverclyde safe. I extend my sincere thanks to our operational support staff as well as our valued partners for their dedication and hard work. Before passing over to Group Commander Anderson, I would like to provide the committee with an update on the service delivery review and charity work that's going on within the local area. The Scottish Fire and Rescue Service Board will meet on Monday, 22nd of June, to consider the outcomes of the service delivery review, SDR, and make a final decision on the proposed changes. A suite of recommendations has been developed from the 23 options for change consulted on June 2025. These proposals have been informed by extensive feedback from the public, staff and stakeholders, alongside detailed operational, financial and equality analysis. Greenock and Port Glasgow fire stations are included in the options for change. I recognise that the process has been challenging and at times sensitive for communities where change is proposed. I remain committed to keeping you all informed, and letters will be sent out tomorrow to give you more information on the process, and I will provide updates as matters progress accordingly. I'm also pleased to report on the fundraising efforts at the Greenock Fire Station, who recently hosted a charity car wash, an event in support of the Firefighters Charity and MND. Furthermore, personnel from the station climbed Ben Nevis last month in full firefighting equipment for the MND charity, raising an incredible £5,000 and £8,000 respectively. The car wash provided valuable opportunity to engage directly with our community, whilst raising funds for a very worthwhile cause, and also supporting our continued focus on strengthening community relationships. We look forward to hosting a station open day on the 15th of August, bringing the community back into the station. At this point, Chair, I would like to pass you over now to Group Commander Anderson, We will take you through the report in more detail. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I just like to present our Scrutiny report for Macleod for quarter 4 of 2025-26. As been seen in the summary page, quarter 4 2025-26 saw SFRS attend 199 incidents across Macleod. This is down from 301 in the same period of last year, a reduction of 34% in the year-on-year figure. Below that is a fuller breakdown of statistics for incident types. All these figures are down compared to the same quarter last year in 2024-25. Fires decreased from 87 to 58, 3% reduction. Special services decreased from 88 to 64, 27% reduction. And false alarms decreased from 127 to 75, 4% reduction. To move on to accident dwelling fires. This quarter, we are pleased to report a decrease in accidental dwelling fires from 16 in the same quarter last year to 15 this year. This reduction is a single incident equates to a percentage reduction of 6%. This quarter, the most common source of ignition recorded in accidental dwelling fires attended by SFRS across Macleod was cooking appliances, and this is in line with the recent trend across Macleod. The table highlights that most of the accidental dwelling fires were small in nature and resulted in no fire damage or were limited to the item first ignited, although in one case the fire was confined to the floor of origin. Although we see a reducing number of accidental dwelling fires across Macleod, they and their associated casualties remain a priority for the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service in terms of our prevention activities, and particularly within the communities across Macleod. In terms of accidental dwelling fire casualties, we can report a reduction in accidental dwelling fire casualties this quarter compared to the same period in 2024-25, with 1 casualty compared to 3 last year. As mentioned in the previous section, accidental dwelling fires and associated casualties remain our top priority in terms of our community safety activities within Macleod, where our teams engage with the community via a variety of ways to promote our fire safety messaging and improve their safety and well-being, including home fire safety visits and post-domestic incident response activities. This quarter, we're reporting a reduction in the year-on-year indicator for non-fire casualties within Macleod, with a total of 5 down from 8 in the same period last year. This is a decrease of 37%. All 5 of the casualties were removed to hospital with slight injuries. Most of these casualties occurred at incidents involving SFRS attending to assist other agencies, as has been the recent trend. And SFRS continues to work closely with our local partners to reduce the non-fire casualties by engaging with communities across Macleod to deliver safety messaging around home, road, water and ice safety. For the fire setting in quarter 4 of 2025-26, we are reporting a decrease of 43% in deliberate fires within Macleod, with a total of 32 this year compared to 56 in the same period last year. Of the 32 deliberate fires across Macleod this quarter, 9 involved refuse and 13 were other forms of outdoor fires, including those involving grassland, woodland or crops. There were also 5 fires involving road vehicles and 2 dwellings, which the cause was recorded as deliberate in the relevant fire reports. The general trend across Macleod has seen falling numbers of deliberate fires with occasional spikes, and we continue to work closely with all of our local partners to continue to drive down the levels of deliberate fire setting and fire-related antisocial behaviour within Macleod. To move on to non-domestic fires. Across this quarter, we attended 1 fire in a non-domestic property. This was down from 2 in the same period last year. The non-domestic fire this quarter was accidental in origin, with the fire confined to the room in which it originated. We have historically had a low number of non-domestic fires in Macleod, and through our fire safety audit programme, we continue to work to maintain these low numbers by ensuring the relevant premises are safe and legally compliant in order to protect the community when they are going about their business or at work. In terms of unwanted fire alarm signals, we are again able to report a reduction in UFAS this quarter, with these incidents decreasing from 39 at the same period last year to 22 this year, a reduction of 43%. We continue to see a reduction in UFAS incidents both locally in Inverclyde and nationally following a change in policy. And our continued engagement with duty holders when attending premises provides the opportunity to offer advice on how to avoid unwanted fire alarm actuations. And where we have repeated attendances, we can escalate our response via the steps laid out in our UFAS policy, which may include visits from our fire safety enforcement team. In terms of road traffic collisions, we can report that SFRS attended no road traffic collisions across Inverclyde during quarter 4 of 2024-2025-26. This was down from 6 in the same period last year. As a result of being attended no RTCs, we are also reporting no RTC casualties in quarter 4. And again, this is a decrease from last year, where we reported 3 casualties in the same period. As mentioned in our section on non-fire casualties, SFRS continues to work towards reducing the number of road traffic collisions and associated casualties through our delivery of road safety education and messaging in conjunction with our partners in the Inverclyde Council and Police Scotland. In terms of home fire safety visits during quarter 4 of 2025-26, our operational crews community action team carried out 50 home fire safety visits. Because of the change to our home fire safety visit qualifying criteria, these were all in high-risk households. This is as a change from our move away from universal provision of home fire safety visits. In the same period prior to the change in policy, when our approach was still universal provision, we carried out 57 home fire safety visits in Inverclyde, of which 26 had been high risk. Within Inverclyde, in quarter 4, our fire safety enforcement team carried out 26 routine audits. They carried out 1 post-fire audit following the fire within the non-domestic premise that I mentioned in that section, and he made 2 specific visits to premises in response to requests for assistance or because of complaint. The number of routine audits is up from 11 in the same quarter last year, an increase of 136%. This is mainly down to the fact that we now have our fire safety enforcement team back to full strength after a period of time now we lost to experience in fire safety enforcement officers through promotion. In terms of community safety and engagement, just to highlight some of the additional points in section 12, that's very much just a snapshot of the prevention activities we carry out across Inverclyde, and these are carried out by both our operational crews and our community action team. This quarter saw us continue a rolling programme of engagements with residents of sheltered accommodation across Inverclyde, delivering CPR and defibrillator training within the communities, and numerous activities as part of both our winter and spring thematic action plans, which overlapped during this particular quarter. Some of the bullet points there that I've picked out, I'll just run through the CPR training, the delivery of fire safety educational training to staff from some of our partners, which improves their knowledge of fire safety and our referral routes in order to be able to refer any of their clients who think they'd be at risk to us, in order to arrange for us to carry out intervention where necessary. And also, as I say, over that period, there were 2 taps. So we run 4 seasonal taps per year, which focus on both specific risks within those particular seasons, but also carry out activities based on the local trends and service demand within the local area. And with that concludes the report. I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Thank you, Rod, for your report. Going back to Edward's comments at the start, we look forward to hearing what the future plans are for the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service in due course. And let me congratulate you very much on your charitable efforts, charitable fundraising efforts. It's a great total that has been achieved, and you can pass on our congratulations from everybody here at the council. Do we have any questions for Scottish Fire and Rescue? Colin?
Yeah. Thanks, Paul. It's you mentioned consultation, and I think this committee has always been kind of clear that we've raised concerns on Scottish Fire and Rescue's reliance on retained firefighters, and given this consultation is Scotland-wide, I hope you kind of indulge us a wee bit here, August, is last week we've seen the devastating fire that happened up in Dunblane, which ripped the buildings and homes apart. The fire brigade union have come out and specifically said that the over reliance on retained firefighters is much to blame for this. The first appliance took 20 minutes to arrive, and support appliances took between 30 and 40 minutes to arrive. And as this committee has brought up previously, these attendance and follow-up times are critical on the effects of how this is going to end up. I suppose I'm wondering if we've got the same over the lines as we've seen there, where they said this building could have been saved, the devastation. I think they were 18, 19 hours fighting this fire because it took so long to turn up. Could we face a similar situation here? And if that was the case, is this the kind of outcomes we would be seeing because we're over the lines? I appreciate I'm talking about a situation that happened out of town, that it is a sort of line consultation and effects in Arlow and Lane very much could be replicated in the play. So I'm just kind of looking for some kind of reassurance. If there's any mitigating circumstances which counter what I'm saying, which I believe the junior saying, obviously we need it. That's all, please.
Thank you, Colin. Is that something you can answer at this time?
I think if we both ways, we can obviously address councillors' concerns,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So there was an incident last week, and as you say, it was it's in an area which is covered by retained. That is the nature of our service in Scotland. We are predominantly a retained service, as the UK as a whole is. And there is a reliance on that field to provide work back across the country. As we've spoken about previously, there are issues about recruitment and retention of on-call firefighters within both the retained and the volunteer duty systems, and the service are working to address that. That has been a study done into it for 3 years. I was on the on-call improvement programme where this was looked at, and a report was put forward with 56 recommendations on how to improve this. The service are currently working their way through those. Alongside, obviously, as you say, SDR is looking at one of the options for Inverclyde looks at moving to a model where we would have more reliance at night on RBS, but during the day we would have potentially have an additional full-time appliance back within the area as a day-to-day appliance. So that yes, there is a reliance, and we will increase that reliance within Inverclyde. But based on the incident statistics for Inverclyde and the number of appliances we have in our disposition, I don't see there being a repeat of that type of incident at Dunblane with its location and its closest support stations. It is in a more isolated position than what we are here in Inverclyde. Within Inverclyde, we've also got 3 stations with 7 appliances that are within probably 10 minutes of each other. And we can then also draw in resources from obviously East and Western Berkshire, Gallowbutte, and from Ayrshire, Renfrewshire, etc. That are surrounding us, and the service operates a standby model so that if there are appliances being mobilised through incidents, taken out of the cover area, other appliances will be brought in from other areas round about and cover those stations, and they're then available to be sent on to that incident. And through the standby model also means that if that incident then starts to escalate and you're asking for other appliances to be brought on, they're already on route to standby those stations, so they're already on route to that area before they're actually requested and sent on. So from that point of view, I'd be confident that the proposed changes shouldn't see us in a position to say we're not in that same geographic position we are in terms of fire cover and the geography of where the stations are located in that area.
Thanks, Rod. Anything else?
Aye, probably. At the end of the day, I mean, if you look at this report, it's a great report. I shouldn't doubt, and it's amazing a lot of work being done here, especially the home visits and the other stuff we're doing. And my question is the non-domestic fires being the only one, which is pretty good, I suppose. My question would be our properties are an awful lot of empty properties lying within Inverclyde for various reasons. And did we have some sort of list of the properties that we could check, preempting any future fire risk? Do we still have that?
So in terms of service, we don't keep a list of empty properties per se. We do keep a derelict building list, so we're aware of what buildings are derelict within our area, and we keep a database of that. But in terms of just vacant properties where a business is supposed to be closed down and that's now lying vacant, unless the building is derelict, then no, we wouldn't keep any kind of record of that. That's not something that we would hold. If it's a non-derelict building, we respond to the same as we would to any other building fire. So we don't actually keep any specific records on vacant properties and the non-domestic.
You know, I find it, maybe it's the council, you should have list of buildings because certain places will tell you some of these big canvas hampers cropped up in places were lying empty, you know, so maybe we should be looking at having an interior these empty places as well. Thanks.
Thanks, Robert. Paul?
Thank you, obviously. It's just a quick question. It came up last night at Branch North from Bayside Community Council around how the fire service deals with fires at battery storage facilities. So I was just wondering if you could explain what the policy is and how you deal with it.
So for us, essentially, the issue we have is if it's a battery energy storage unit, and obviously it's just a large number of lithium-ion batteries and eventually a container of some form. They are designed to be fire safety mechanisms built into them, so that most of them will have some form of fire extinguishing mechanism in them, whether it be a gas-based or actually a water-based suppressant system. So we'll have that in it. They also have a ventilation system built into them, or a venting mechanism on the top of them, so that the build-up of gases given off from a lithium-ion battery can either be vented out via the vent mechanism, or, as I say, that will have vent panels, which when the pressure gets high enough, it will force those panels open. They're usually on the top of the container, so that release of pressure is going upwards and not posing a threat to anybody else around about at the time. And on a battery energy storage site, most of their fire plans and their fire risk assessments are based around those units are sacrificial. So our plan would be to protect the neighbouring best units, and the one that's on fire we would generally allow to burn out, because at the moment that's the most effective way of dealing with a fire than a lithium-ion battery. It's just like it actually consuming and burning out, because of issues of they effectively create their own oxygen as they're burning, so they're hard to smother. You can't submerge them in water because they'll just continue to burn under the water because they produce their own oxygen. So at this moment in time, the best tactic that we have is that we would protect surrounding exposures and we would let it burn out where it's suitable to do so. Where it's not suitable to do so, then we would make an actual attack on it, use water, but it takes a large amount of water, and you then have potentially contaminated runoff from that, the chemicals from the battery and the runoff from firefighting, which we need to try and contain and have disposed of correctly. So where possible, the tactic is to just let it be a controlled burn and we protect any surrounding exposures. But where that's not possible because there's other infrastructure around about it, or there's properties, etc., which might get this, then we would actively firefight it.
Thanks.
Okay, Paul? Anybody else? I don't see anything online. So thank you, Rod. Thank you, Edward, for your report. Item 3 on the agenda is the Police Scotland performance report. We've also got a presentation on community policing by Chief Inspector Ryan McMurdo this afternoon. I think we'll take the presentation first before we go to the report. Chief Inspector McMurdo.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm Ryan McMurdo. I'm the Chief Inspector for Support and Service Delivery for Renfrewshire and Inverclyde Division, and I am leading on the introduction of the enhanced community policing model for Inverclyde. The enhanced community policing model represents a change of our local policing model to improve the way we deliver our service to our communities. The Chief Constable has been clear that strengthening the front line, reconnecting with communities and responding to emerging threats is a priority. Our 2030 vision for policing sets key ambitions of safer communities, less crime, supported victims and a thriving workforce. The new enhancing community policing model directly supports this pledge by prioritising the front line to support officers, staff and volunteers to deliver for our communities. The enhanced community policing model has been designed following a thorough review of local policing involving in-depth research and engagement. A wider programme of change has created capacity to implement our new community policing model thanks to criminal justice improvements, mental health demand and reforming enabling services, including reviewing our workforce mix. The enhancing community policing model will establish more effective and consistent community policing model. It will also provide increased capacity for local policing teams to deal with local issues. Our community police officers will be empowered and have the time to problem solve local issues alongside our partners and the public. The changes will come into effect on the 22nd of September 2026. The model doesn't give us additional resources. The model focuses on using the resource that we do have more effectively and efficiently. The Enhanced Community Policing Project will deliver community policing teams that will deliver effective problem solving and engagement, incident response teams that professionally manage emergency and urgent calls for service, and a community investigation hub that improves the effectiveness and efficiency and quality of investigations. It's the introduction of that community investigation hub that will enable community policing officers to spend more time in their communities and less time attending urgent calls by establishing a more focused incident response model. Community investigation hubs will deliver a better service to victims and create further capacity for both community and response policing teams by improving the effectiveness, efficiency and quality of our volume crime investigations. Our response officers will deal more promptly with immediate and urgent calls. By allocating non-urgent demand to the Community Investigation Hub, response officers will have increased capacity for proactive work focused on protecting people and communities. This will support our community policing teams to be identifiable and contactable in person and online, to be visible in the communities, with each ward having 2 identified officers. It'll allow them to engage with local partners, working with them to solve local problems, and it will support community engagement and participation. There are 7 wards within Inverclyde. To fulfil 2 officers per ward would take 14 officers. However, we will be posting in excess of 14 officers, providing greater resilience and demonstrating our commitment to community policing. A pilot of the Enhanced Community Policing model has already taken place in Forth Valley Division between September and December 2025. The evaluation has been used to inform the rollout of the model across the rest of the country. It showed that the model delivers improvements to the public and to officers' workloads. During the pilot, there were no local policing appointments cancelled by police, and the average time to first contact reduced from 14 days to 2 days, demonstrating the significant improvement in the efficiency and of service delivery. Also led to officers reporting lower stress levels and more time for proactive work. There have been positive impacts from the implementation of the new model, particularly from the new Communities Investigation Hub, which is removing demand from community and response teams to allow them to focus on their roles. After implementation, our community officers will be visible in communities such as local events, attending community locations and working with other local partners to problem solve local issues. To enhance capacity, our community officers will be supported by response officers and officers working within the Community Investigation Hub. The Community Investigation Hub will provide a more responsive, tailored approach to the public, and our communities will continue to be supported by specialist teams such as road policing, dogs and public protection. We will continue to engage with community councils as often as we can through a variety of ways, such as attending meetings in person and online, and as well as providing written updates and bulletins. We're fortunate to have positive relationships with our partnerships in Inverclyde, and this approach will continue under the new model. The way that you contact the divisional and area command teams will not change. However, our dedicated community policing teams will have improved capacity and will work closely with our local partners with a focus on prevention and problem solving. Changes to wider structures within local policing, such as public protection, will take place in later projects under the Policing for Our Communities programme, and I'll be happy to share information on that as it progresses. Improvements in criminal justice and mental health demand have created the capacity for us to implement this new community policing model. The enhanced model will strengthen connections with communities and ensure consistent approaches to local proactive problem solving and prevention. It'll also shift focus from reactive policing to prevention and problem solving, which is vital to move from crisis response and head off warning signs of social disengagement. Approaches to local policing have remained largely unchanged since the creation of Police Scotland. Over a period of years, local policing has taken on further responsibilities or given up resource to allow effective additional services to be delivered. We know local policing appointments are too often rearranged or cancelled, or investigations not progressed quickly enough because of competing demands. The Policing for Our Communities programme aims to deliver a nationally recognisable and sustainable operating model for local policing that meets the needs of our local communities. This programme is a key element of our 2030 vision to deliver safer communities, less crime, supported victims and a thriving workforce, and seeks to improve public confidence in policing and policing's ability to reduce harm through prevention and proactivity. Chair, that's a summary of our enhanced community policing model. I'm happy to take questions, and equally if the committee wish some time to reflect, I'm happy to take emails at a later time as well. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Chief Inspector. A most interesting report indeed. Members, do we have any questions for Chief Inspector McMurdo? Paul?
Thank you, Provost. Yeah, it's really interesting to hear community policing making a comeback at Police Scotland, because after all, it was something that you used to do many years ago and then ditched. And I can remember fondly the two community police officers who used to attend back when I used to be a community councillor, my local community council. One of my jobs in this council is the community council champion, so I'm particularly quite keen to hear about the engagement that you're now going to have with community councils, because it has always been a complaint for years about the lack of engagement, the lack of community councils knowing what's going on in their communities, and that whole you mentioned in there that reports should be given to them. So I'm just kind of curious how you're going to deliver all this when you say that there's kind of going to be no extra resource you put in, because after all, community policing was cut because Police Scotland said we don't have money for it.
So the committee will be aware that the Chief Constable in the last budget did seek for additional funding to improve our numbers. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So we've looked at ways and methods to improve efficiency and effectiveness. The new model provides a community investigation hub that's going to remove a lot of the demand from our response in our community policing teams, and it's that shift in demand to a dedicated unit that will improve and increase the amount of time that community officers have got to proactively patrol their areas, and the response teams have got to attend priority calls, priority and emergency calls. So it's a retailoring of the resource that we've got, but by putting the demand to our community investigation unit, our hope is that frees up a bit of capacity for our community policing teams to be more effective and more engaged within the communities.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to hear. I think that word hope is just a bit of a concern, because we've had the best of hope, but whether it'll actually happen is something else. I think I'd probably just say as well, what might be good is if you actually communicate something to the community councils, that this is something that's coming along, and explain to them, what this is going to mean for them going forward. I think they pretty much welcome that.
Yes, so the feedback that we've had from the divisions that have launched in relation to police community policing and engagement with local communities has been really positive. So we are seeing tangible results in terms of that demand being shifted to more appropriate resources to free up our community policing teams to be more proactive, as well as our response teams to allow them to attend the priority calls. So,
okay, thanks, Paul. Ian?
Thanks, Provost, and thanks very much, Chief Inspector, for that Very, very informative and very welcomed programme of community policing. I can't really say how happy I'm to hear that it's come forward, and it's now come forward at an advanced state. Having been lucky enough to speak to community police officers just this week and spend some time with them, to see it now being proposed by yourself and brought forward is really just music to the ears. I've always been an advocate of community policing for obvious reasons, and to actually see it now being brought in such an advanced formula as you have just described is really good news. And to what you've called it, enhanced community policing module, it really just forms everything we want to see. I'd actually just written down something in my notes that I was going to bring forward later on before I knew your good self was going to be here. And in that notes was that what they're doing, your chief superintendent, chief inspector, would be to bring the prospect of having community police officers attached to the wards, which you've just brought forward. How I've managed to do that, I'm not quite sure without reading your mind. So thanks very much. It makes it all look very attentive. I can't say more than enough that I'm so delighted to see community policing being brought in an enhanced module to Inverclyde. It's something I feel strongly for. It's something I always wanted to see, and we've always spoke about it here in the panel with the senior officers, and we've always spoken about resources. So just like my colleague, Councillor Cassidy, I would like to see these resources very much single-lined and pretty much round the community police model is their job, and that they're not taken away from that, because I know sometimes that can happen and that can have an effect. So to have them here in the forefront, that would be absolutely a great achievement. The question really is possibly more a comment to see that it's great to see it happen, and I'm quite sure that Inverclyde is going to see a better and more in touch policing with the local officers, of which is there already, but to bring this forward and actually show it working, I really look forward to seeing it happen, and I look forward to working with the officers. I've always banged on about getting some community police officers in Gourock, so now to see that we've got ward community police officers, again, you've just ticked the list. You've always given me my wish list there, Chief Inspector. I'm now going to be looking for you to deliver. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ian. Bob?
I thank Ross. Yes, I appreciate it as well. Very much for me, it's like Back to the Future, because I'm back the day when I sat in the Strathclyde Police Authority, and the Chief Cons come in and they made a big emphasis on community policing. So much so it said that nobody would be desperate for career if they became community cops. We get the same opportunity for promotion and everything else that went with that. But sadly, over the years it has diminished. And when I spoke to some of the senior officers about it, and they said that it wasn't so much that they didn't want to do it, it was resource tied. And they said that a lot of the resources now were going to serious organised crime, anti-terrorist activities, armed response teams, and you can want ever. These are things we've all developed since back the day, and they were taking away all of the resources. But we're sort of refocusing now. And I always said, I went to a seminar called Connecting with Communities, and I've always felt that's the way forward. And if I'm not wrong, I think I seen the pilot. Did you make a pilot of this? Up at Helensty, I think I was up to visit. I mean, I seen the pilot, and I said, well, it worked to put emphasis back on the communities to do their job and give them a wee bit more freedom and get better and running communities. And me for one, for my community council, we always remember, we could tell them to come in, never missed a meeting. And to get that back would be a great development in my opinion. And I just hope that, I know you say that we're going to get us to. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. John?
Thank you, Convener. Just because long they can add similar vein as other councillors, it's what to do with the community councillors, councils rather. And you did mention there about the visitation at the community council meetings, and one of the points you did mention there was if it's not in person, it would be possibly by Zoom or Microsoft Teams. Now, in the past, we had access to email addresses and the likes. Would that be forwarded on to the community councils so that the community officers can be contacted that way. So if they are not available in person, that they can actually meet online.
Yeah, so after the introduction of policing for our communities, there will be a number of new email addresses for our community policing teams and our community investigation hub and our response teams. So they will all be shared with the committee, the elected members and partners. So yeah, there will be email addresses shared with community councils as part of that. We can indulge, Chair, address a couple other points. So the Chief Constable and the Executive have listened to feedback over the past few years, and I think it's fair to say that there has been a real push to reintroduce that traditional community policing values that have been discussed around the table. I'm of a vintage where I myself was a community officer and well known within the community that I served. And I think it's a real positive that we're going back to that. Appreciate the words over there. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin.
Thanks, Provost. Pretty much the theme of the police report centres on the success of multi-agency and partnership working, and that comes through pretty clear. There's a lot of good news in there. Because we know a lot of the problems we have in Inverclyde are mental health related, and I think a multi-agency partnership approach is very welcome on that, and it's very much accredited to the drop in missing persons. You know, we give a lot of credit to the year because we've got a lot of young and vulnerable people who go missing, and I'm imagining that multi-agency approach is very vital in keeping them safe and getting them returned. I don't know if it's possible at all that maybe we could get some kind of report or else even a presentation on how this multi-agency partnership approach is working, because it does seem to be proven to be very successful in the results are basically in black and white. So it's just a request and to thank the officers for this new approach and to highlight how successful it seems to be working for us.
Thank you, Colin. Anything else in the room? I don't see anything online. Thank you. Thank you, Chief Inspector, for your presentation. You can hear how well it's been received here in the chamber. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
We'll now go with us this afternoon. We've got Chief Superintendent Rona Fraser and Chief Inspector David Docherty. I would now ask for the Police Scotland performance report.
Thank you, Provost, and good afternoon, members of the committee. I'm pleased today to present the Police Scotland performance summary for Inverclyde, which covers the full reporting period from the 1st of April 2025 to the 31st of March 2026. This report highlights the areas of operational success, some of which you've already alluded to, but also detailing some of the evolving challenges within our community. As you've heard from earlier with Chief Inspector McMurdo's presentation, the Chief Constable has been quite clear that strengthening the front line, reconnecting with our communities and responding to the emerging threats that we are seeing is our priority. The 2030 vision for policing quite clearly sets out our key ambitions of safer communities, less crime, supported victims and a thriving workforce. I'm pleased to report in the division locally we have gone from quite serious challenges around absence to recently being the division with the lowest absence across the West and very close to force-wide as well. So very positive in terms of not just culture, but in terms of the priorities and the way that we are able to support our workforce to support the community. And that enhanced community policing model will directly continue to support this pledge also. We recently launched body-worn video, which I know you are all well aware of within the local area. It has been well received so far, not just by officers, but in terms of those within the community, because it offers that transparency and provides confidence in our police officers and makes sure that we are fully accountable for our actions. I'll take any questions on body worn at the end, because I know that's always a good opportunity to do so. It's an exciting technological advancement for us, and we're very pleased to see it here in the division. In terms of incident and demand analysis, overall crimes and offences within Inverclyde have increased by 19% year on year, resulting in a total of 6,920 recorded crimes. However, our overall detection rate remains strong at 71.2%, sitting comfortably above the national rate of 66.7%. Some of you may notice within the reports that 5 of the 8 crime types have shown increases. However, within those 5, 2, notably Group 5 and Group 8 crimes, are largely attributable to the proactive work by officers within the community. In contrast to recorded crime, the total number of police incidents has dropped by 5%. It's crucial to contextualise this, as over 80% of incidents reported to us do not result in a crime being recorded. A vast proportion of our daily demand remains centred around vulnerabilities, welfare concerns, and ensuring public safety. In terms of violence, disorder, and antisocial behaviour, Inverclyde recorded a total of 795 crimes of violence, marking a modest year-on-year decrease. We have achieved a notable 27% drop in violent crimes involving an accused under the age of 18. This reduction is supported by our enhanced multi-agency early and effective intervention process and contextualised safeguarding meetings, which provide early warning systems and offer interventions to divert children from offending behaviour. And indeed, that multi-agency approach was alluded to earlier by one of our members here. While nearly half of our recorded violent crime occurred within residential premises, private space violence fell by 14%. However, we face an acute challenge in public utility locations such as local authority buildings, hospitals and courts, where violent crimes more than doubled, rising from 31 to 70. We also note a rise within commercial premises, where assaults on retail and security staff are frequently linked to acquisitive crime. Our weekend plan runs every Friday and Saturday night, allowing our teams to be on patrol and visible within our key identified areas. And we will continue to use analysis and data to shape our policing models so that we find ourselves in the place where we are needed most. In terms of weapons, proactive enforcement and detections led to 197 offensive or bladed weapons offences being recorded, which represents an increase of 23.1%. Of these, 108 crimes related to weapons being used in secondary criminal activity, such as vandalism or threatening behaviour. And to counter this, our community policing and partnerships team have enhanced their footprint within and engaged directly with schools, which allows education staff to risk assess offenders and invoke some offensive weapon protocols. We continue to engage with our communities about the disadvantages of knife carrying, and last week was Knife Crime Awareness Week, which was supported by the council, so very strong partnership working in that area. Complaints regarding disorder decreased slightly by 0.9% across the local authority, with damage and reckless behaviour falling by 13.2% and willful fire raising dropping to its lowest level in 5 years at 27 recorded crimes. We also recorded 98 hate crimes, which is a reduction on the previous year, with a 67.3% detection rate. Based on feedback we've received here and elsewhere, we are trying to provide a greater social media footprint and coverage on what we are doing, issuing personal safety messaging most weekends and providing guidance to those who are in our communities, visiting, working or living. And this has been highlighted in our Your Police survey, where we sit slightly higher than the national rate for respondents feeling well informed about local policing activities. Moving on to protecting vulnerable people. Protecting people at risk of harm remains at the core of our operations. Sexual crime has increased by 34.2% to 157 offences. It's difficult to say what is driving this increase. Increased confidence in reporting may be one reason. Similarly, greater understanding and less acceptance of violence against women and girls in society as a whole could be another. However, it could equally be, as we are seeing in the report, increasing cyber-enabled crimes being committed. All forms of violence against women and girls and children are underreported, and we are working with partners to understand what is driving the increases and what underlying causes are and how we can best tackle them. And importantly, how we can encourage people to report and have confidence in their police. 16 days of activism against gender-based violence commenced on the 18th of November 2025. Our local teams participated, focusing on arrests of high-risk perpetrators of domestic abuse and encompassing tailored guidance sessions for colleagues on response to domestic abuse and also tackling honour-based abuse and violence. In addition to attending joint partner community events run by our partners within Women's Aid to provide reassurance and raise awareness across the area. Moving to a more positive note, which thankfully has been picked up again earlier today, our total missing person reports fell significantly by 32.3%, representing 176 reports involving 126 individuals. Most notably, missing persons involving care experienced young people fell by 57.7%, which is a massive reduction in demand to us. And this reduction is real testament to the enhanced partnership opportunities that we're using in terms of training and interagency involvement in things like return interviews and making it the most suitable plan for the young person, first and foremost. To safeguard our most vulnerable, the Greenup Partnership Hub now facilitates 7 multi-agency meetings each week. When concern for person incidents are raised, these hubs, the hub will allows us to immediately share information with partners such as the Health and Social Care Partnership and also Addiction Services to ensure that early intervention opportunities and signposting for those requiring health, housing and addiction support takes place as soon as practically possible. In terms of acquisitive crime, crimes of dishonesty saw a sharp surge of 30.4%. This rise is overwhelmingly driven by retail crime, specifically a 50.5% spike in theft by shoplifting, which now accounts for 60% of all acquisitive crime in Inverclyde. Our partnership team and the licensing department routinely work with retailers and offer advice and guidance, utilising the skills, experience and knowledge obtained from the close relationship that we have now with the Retail Crime Task Force, who have received funding to continue for the foreseeable. We will continue to work with them to prevent crime, gather intelligence, improve information sharing and on-site prevention measures for retailers to help protect their shop workers and bring those who offend to justice. Concurrently, cyber-enabled crimes rose by 18%, and we are countering this through local prevention campaigns and the Cyber Scotland Partnership. We work with a wide range of community groups and educational institutions to highlight cyber threats, targeting different sectors of the community, and we use targeted campaigns to reach those who have been victims. The Scottish Government estimate that cyber crimes accounted for at least 5% of total recorded crimes in 2024 to 25, and as part of our 2040 vision, we are dedicated to the creation of a Cyber and Fraud Command, enabling greater UK-wide collaboration with enhanced focus on those victims, along with expanded access to interventions and disruption activity opportunities. Repeat offending, as we've spoken about before, is a critical driver in our retail crime figures, with 130 prolific repeat offenders identified locally. In response, we are working with local businesses through our dedicated Retail Crime Task Force and partners like Retailers Against Crime, or RAC, as you may be more familiar with, to deploy targeted interventions. Moving on to road safety and road crime. Road safety remains an area of intense operational focus, as the statistics hopefully provide you with some reassurance regarding. Inverclyde recorded 54 road traffic casualties, representing a minor increase from the previous year, while the number of fatalities remained static and serious injuries decreased. There was a slight rise in collisions causing minor injuries. We recognise that behind every single statistic is a person and family whose life has been profoundly impacted, and this is the reality that keeps road safety at the forefront of our local priorities. Our local teams have provided and will continue to carry out inputs with education, providing support and guidance on how to keep our roads safe for new drivers. Proactive enforcement by local officers and the road policing unit led to a substantial 31.6% increase in recorded road traffic offences. Rather than a simple rise in offending, these figures reflect our deliberate and sharpened operational focus on the fatal 5 high-risk driver behaviours, namely speeding, careless driving, impaired driving, seatbelt offences and mobile phone use. Detections within these critical categories rose by 30%, demonstrating our commitment to that robust intervention. In conclusion, while the rising volume of acquisitive crime, cyber threats and public space violence present clear challenges, our high detection rates, reduced youth violence, and dramatic drop in missing persons shows that our targeted, partnership-focused strategy is working. I'd like to thank you all for your continued support, and I'm happy to take any questions from the committee.
Thank you for your report, Chief Superintendent. Do we have any questions? Paul?
Thank you, Bruce. Yeah, a couple of questions. First of all, on dirt bikes, e-bikes and e-scooters. So back in 2024, I last raised concerns at this panel about, at that time, it was a growing issue with here through our community councils about dirt bikes being used for antisocial behaviour in Inverclyde. And over the past few weeks, those concerns kept going to be surfaced again. Most recently, last night, the Markham Branch and Bayside Community Council heard directly from residents about an ongoing problem involving dirt bikes and e-scooters in the Larkfield area, as well as the wider Inverclyde community. I heard from one resident describing an incident last Sunday at Westmoreland Road where 2 boys.
Chair, sorry, Councillor Cassidy, I think you need to sort of restrain your comments to generic comments rather than talking about any particular matters that may be the subject of an ongoing investigation.
Okay, that's fine. So we've heard incidents about them being used to cause antisocial behaviour, people driving them irresponsibly on roads. We've heard people driving them without protective equipment, driving around with balaclavas covering their faces. And all this is causing real concern for residents. And it's also presenting a real danger, not just to road users, but also pedestrians and members of the public. And last year, we also had that National Crime Stoppers campaign that was launched that particularly focused on this issue. And I think that the opinion that I'm hearing from people is that we're not really seeing any progress being made on this issue. So my kind of question is, what are we doing to tackle this problem in Inverclyde, and what resources are available that you can call on to deploy to deal with this?
Thank you, Paul.
I'll let David come in on the specifics, but certainly from our perspective in terms of this as a growing problem, it is recognised across the force. It is a very serious problem. It's extremely dangerous for the user. It's extremely dangerous for other people on pavements, roads, public spaces, and it is a growing cause for concern. It's intimidating for residents where these bikes and scooters are being used, and we're absolutely committed to try and tackle it in the safest way that we can for everybody involved. We've got a number of initiatives that have been running. It is a very challenging area to try and address, but we're looking at using all the legislation available to us, the seizure opportunities, to try and make inroads, and also using our educational opportunities for parents that you'll probably have seen and heard of very recently, to try and cut off the supply for the users, essentially, because as you know, in terms of the criminality around the use, it doesn't necessarily exist in terms of the purchase. So we have to be quite flexible in terms of our response and make sure that we're using all opportunities within our partnership space to respond to it. But I'll let David handle the local element of any action plans that may be ongoing just now.
Yeah, it's a really difficult issue. It is. We all see them. We all see it's going to be on a daily basis, to be honest. Whether it's electric scooters, electric bikes, whether it's old-fashioned diesel or petrol dirt bikes, very, very difficult to combat. Very difficult to get a hold of them, to stop, etc. We have seized a number of bikes, whether it be electric or motorised bikes, over the last few months. We'll put a fair bit on social media, we're showing pictures of bikes seized, etc., just to try and push the education point again that you can't use these bikes on the road, and if you are using them on the road, they need to be insured to be MOT like any other vehicle. Last year we ran a couple of operations at weekends to tackle the issues up in Larkfield with the bikes. We got support from our operational support division with the helicopter up. We could then track the bikes back to the point of origin. We used drones last year as well to try and find out where they were coming from and where they were going. We had some success with that, but those resources are finite and those resources are being required across the West, not just in Inverclyde. So we find ourselves almost in a bidding war with other divisions to try and get that kind of support down here. Something we intend to run again over the summer months, because we find over the summer months for lighter nights, typically bikes, particularly on golf courses and things like that, are far more common. I think nationally there's an education piece here that could be used and pushed further. Everyone has the responsibility within the community to make sure that people aren't behaving like this. One of the issues we have in the community, people phone us to say there's bikes in the street, there's bikes in the field over the back, etc. But when we ask for specifics or details, or people to give us statements, to give us evidence, to go chap someone's door or search a garage or whatever, people are reluctant to engage. So we could probably do more with the community to encourage people, maybe through your community council meetings, to come forward and give us information we need. I'm not going to lie to you, it's a difficult issue to deal with, difficult to trace those involved. Once they are seized, they don't get them back. We are working on it, it's not easy.
What are the legalities of, are the electronic scooters, are they just illegal altogether? And electronic bikes, they're electric assisted cycles that are, I'm sure are perfectly legal, but then there's these other ones that are on the road. Is there a kind of specification that's totally illegal on the scooters on the pavement? Are they not allowed?
No, they're not allowed. And so you have electric bikes, pedal bikes, where someone's pedaling and assisted by some kind of form of electric power to help them. They're fine, they're legal, but there is a power threshold. And you forgive me, I don't have the specifics just now. There's a power threshold that you can take them to. Once we go beyond that power threshold, and the bike is purely driven by an electric battery that's on it, and some of them are quite high powered. Some of them get up to speeds of 40-50 miles an hour. People are also modifying them as well and changing the controls on them and changing the specifics on them to make them go faster. And I don't think it's too difficult to do, to be honest. But they are all illegal, and anyone using a bike like that, or even a scooter that's high powered and over a power threshold, should be regulated. They should have it serviced, MOT, insurance, etc. But they don't, and it's not just. A lot of them can be young people or children. They do it with enjoyment, but you also see adults using them basically to go back and forth to work each day, and they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And
I think our experience is that you see a lot of them using it with no helmets of any sort, even cycle helmets. You can understand what an issue is for you. Paul, anything else?
Yeah, thanks for the answer, So move on to another issue, the one that I always ask it this year. I'm getting more frustrated that I'm still having to ask it. So we're now 2 years, 5 months and 21 days on since the consultation of future police station was launched. 2 years, 1 month since that consultation closed. We're over 1 year, 8 months since the estate plan was approved by the Police Scotland Board, and over 1 year and 6 months since the estate plan was at the board. So, yeah, despite all this time, we've still got no timeline on the future Greenwood Police Station, no announcement over it. This committee engaged in this consultation process in good faith. We took the time to contribute views, and there's a reasonable expectation that, well, by now we would have an outcome made clear. And it's incredibly frustrating for me. My patience ran out on this issue, the patience of the community's ran out on this issue. And I appreciate Chief Superintendent, this is your chief constable level decision, this isn't with you. But I don't want to be sitting at this scrutiny panel when it reconvenes again after our summer recess in a couple of months' time, where we still don't have an announcement. So I would just ask that you please raise it with your superiors that we expect by then there to be a clear announcement. We don't expect it to be right before the board next meets. We expect it to be pretty soon within the next month or two, because it's just quite frankly unacceptable we've had to wait this long.
Yeah, I understand, and I will miss it when it's gone as a subject, because, you know, what is a scrutiny without a discussion about states now? So, but I do totally appreciate your frustrations. I am equally invested in getting that positive response and outcome and announcement. We're sitting within the territory of commercially sensitive just now, which is why I can't give you any more information here other than to provide you with a bit of assurance, but I do accept in terms of the timescale, it probably isn't much, that we are progressing with a lease that's sitting between legal services, both organisations just now, and there will be an announcement, there will be a launch, there will be invites, and I'm very much looking forward to that day. I'm hoping it is sooner rather than later, because I also would like to have this concluded pretty swiftly. Officers are keen and excited for the new opportunity, and we're doing all we can from our end to try and just keep the heat and keep the probing. But everything I'm hearing is reassuring, and there is certainly an appetite within the states. There's an appetite within legal to get this progressed. So we're still moving with our preferred option, and it still will include a custody provision for the local community. So all of that remains, and yes, hopefully I'll be able to give you something more conclusive in due course.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Daisley online.
Thank you,
James.
Yeah, so first, I've got two questions. The first question, the reported increase in sexual crime, everyone has been understandably generating.
Sorry, James, could you start again? We didn't have a sound, but they seem to be coming through okay now.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. The reported increase in sexual crime has understandably generated public concern and a lot of discussion on social media, with a number of explanations being suggested. Now, there has been some context provided, which is good, but I really want to understand if there was any further reassurance that Police Scotland could give in terms of making sure that this debate is informed by facts rather than speculation for the public. But just for clarity, based on the evidence available, is there anything within these figures that would support the explanations being suggested on social media, or does the data point firmly towards the factors that have been outlined today? I think it's important to really just clarify that.
Did you get that?
I think what's being asked there is the narrative around the increase in sexual offences, and there was you mentioned social media, but I wasn't sure.
Through you, Chair, I think we were really struggling to hear what Councillor Daisley said. I wonder if Councillor Daisley would be willing to put some of the information in the chat, and we could perhaps read it out for clarity.
Any better? Is it any better that I've changed my mic?
That's a bit better. Yes, on you go.
So I apologise for that. That's my fault. The technical issues here. Okay, so what I'm basically saying is that there's been a lot of conversation online about the increase in sexual crimes, quite sensitive subjects being suggested by the public. So I just, for clarity, need to understand if there was anything within the data or the evidence available that would suggest that or would help the public to come to a better understanding based upon the facts rather than speculation.
So we're looking for understanding on why there's an increase. Is that
yes?
Yes, right. Okay. So, well, it's a really complicated subject, and we do like to think that increased public trust and confidence is a reason behind some of the increased reporting and increased detections. The reassurance that I can provide you, while it's far more complex than that, and we've got that online presence, we've got cyber-enabled issues, we've got a decreased tolerance for violence against women and girls, quite rightly so. It's a very, very difficult picture to try and pinpoint one particular reason why we're seeing these increases, but from a reassurance perspective, it is very much top priority. We are running sensitive operations all the time. We are engaging with victims. Recently, we've had a victim come forward to us with quite a significant history of abuse, and our officers have taken at least 17 statements from that one individual to pursue the evidence required to get a conviction, hopefully in due course. So we are very much pursuing every avenue with all of our partners, with our MARAC, our MATAC systems and procedures to do the best we can for every individual victim. And we spoke about it here once before. We will look for opportunities in the power to tell. We will look for opportunities with previous partners. We will make proactive approaches to try and gain MURO or additional evidence that we need to support single reports and single victims where we may be lacking in other evidence. So we will pursue robustly every report that comes to us, and that may lead to other reports. Equally, we have a high number of historic reports, so they bring with them their own challenges in terms of evidential capture as well. So it's a very complex picture, but one that we are very much committed to and pursuing with every resource that we have, and that includes upskilling our response officers and our community policing officers to be able to be better equipped to deal with those first disclosures as well. And body-worn video will be a very interesting advancement for us in that regard as well, because what body-worn video can capture is the the environment, the state of the victim at the time, the demeanour of the suspect, all of those things which we have previously relied on in written context or through the testimony of the officers, but actually it will be quite evidentially clear for those viewing it. And all of these will have a positive impact. May see a slight change in some of our detection rates positively, I would hope. But yeah, a very complex picture and not one I can probably specify in a more concise way.
Thank you.
Provost, can I just comment on this before? I know Ian and John are about to come in here.
Colin?
Can I just cut to the chase here? I think, and if I'm wrong, sure Councillor Basil will correct me, that he's referred to the scapegoating of ethnic and racial groups within Inverclyde, which is appearing online, and none of the evidence bears out this scapegoating. I think that's what Councillor Daisley's referring to, and it's a nonsense because none of the evidence supports what's been said online. So it's just to make that point, obvious.
Thanks, Colin. Councillor Daisley, was that what you were referring to indirectly? James, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct. That's what I was referring to.
Thanks. Is that something you'd like to comment?
Yeah, I can. And I think you'll see from this, I think it's in the report. If not, it's certainly the case that our increase in some of the Group 2 crimes are attributable by and large by cyber-enabled and within the domestic setting. So yes, that's the area where we can focus our attention in terms of that rise.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Hilger, please.
Thanks, Provost. Just going back onto page 19, top in the violence disorder antisocial behaviour section. A question to the senior officers. It's in line 3, violence in public utility locations. And moving on to the increase in weapon offences, there's 2 parts, rose by 23.1%, in which obviously the senior officers have highlighted as being proactive. So it's just looking for a bit more information, both these things. First of all, a bit more information on public utility locations, what that means exactly and how it affects the crime stats. And when they're proactive, if they just give a bit more detail, as much as they are able to in that respect. Thanks.
So I think the first part of that was in and around the definition of the public utility. By and large, the hospitals are where we see that violence occurring. That's a repeat locus, repeat hotspot, if you like. Our officers spend a significant amount of time within the hospitals for that reason, but they also are there with offenders that they will have been instructed to bring there for one reason or another, or who they have taken of their own accord. So that's where the majority of those where the majority of those crimes take place is hospitals. While it mentions courts and local authority buildings, it's really hospitals. It's where the largest proportion is. And if that helps. And that, what was this? Sorry, forget.
You said a bit proactive in the increase in weapon offences detection. It's about how you're going about your proactive procedures.
So a number of ways, and I'll go back a few years. We have a number of officers now who joined over the COVID years when we weren't allowed to engage with people, we weren't allowed to stop search, and we spent much of our day in vehicles. So we've really had to address that in terms of retraining, refocus, bringing in some of our national units from the stop search unit, etc. We've very much increased our capability within our training department to be able to upskill and from my perspective to really push what I feel is a very legitimate and effective tactic, which is stop search, and it's looking at the data that our analysts can produce, telling us where and who is using the intelligence that comes in about the individuals that are involved in weapon offences, that are involved in violence, and it's making sure that we are ethically and proportionately dealing with the right areas and the right people, and that is seriously increasing the numbers of detections that we are seeing within the community. It's taking knives off the right people at the right time, and hopefully preventing some of those crimes from occurring, and the use of weapons in crimes as well, which is another very worrying thing for members of the public. So there's a number of things, and David can talk locally if there's any action plans running at the moment, but specifically the tactic around stop searching, it's stopping vehicles as well, speaking to members of the public, using our community-led intelligence, it's all of those things together to have the tools, the training, and actually just the will and desire and support from us in terms of a senior management team that they are doing the right thing, and that is quite legitimately a policing tactic that is helping to make our streets safer.
Thank you.
Thanks, Provost. I'd just also like to highlight, quite sure through yourself, Provost, that this council and the elected members here have got an absolute zero tolerance in respect of any staff in hospitals, ambulance staff, fire staff, regarding any form of abuse, violence or threats. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Hillier. I'll go to Councillor Crowler and then Councillor Reynolds. John?
Thank you, Convener. It's more just a comment than anything else, because it's actually been dealt with by Councillor Cassidy and responded by yourself. It's to do with the electric scooters. As we know, most of it are youths and younger persons. Most are hooded, some have masks on. In fact, the vast majority have masks on. But there seems to be a trend now, rather than being on the pavement, that they're driving on the roads. And when they're on the roads, I have noticed that it seems to be like a game of chicken that's been played, because they're driving on the wrong side of the road against the flow of traffic and relying on the drivers to get out the road. Now, it's only a matter of time probably before someone is seriously injured. Now, nowadays, many of the cars are fitted with the videos so they can record that. Has there been any requests in general made if anyone has footage to send that in, especially if the riders of the electric scooters are not masked?
Yeah, so that you make a very good point, and you're right that as I spoke before, the behaviour of people riding these bikes is becoming more and more reckless. And tragically, we seen an incident it went through a couple of months ago where someone died on a bike. Without wanting to give away these tactics too much, we do have beginning of an action plan to try and collate dash cam footage from members of the public, local CCTV, also the body worn footage of police officers now have in the division as well. It can be very useful to identify people, because you're right, most of the people riding the bikes get a hat on, the hood up, the scarf across their face. It's very, very difficult to identify them. But there are other ways to identify people as well and trace who they are and what face these bikes. So we are working on a plan just now to pull together as much footage, either from police body cam or members of the public as we can, trying to get more people identified who are riding these bikes.
Yeah, that's very nice, lovely, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Reynolds, Sandra?
Thanks, Chair. If I may, can I go back to the points that Councillor Daisley and Councillor Jackson were making, just to clarify. Councillor Jackson clarified Councillor Daisley's comment, but I was wanting to clarify that further. I think both were saying that there's an increase in social media, in particular in the blame for sexual offences and its rise on ethnic minorities. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that Councillor Daisley was asking whether the police could give information to correct that. In addition, can I just say that during the campaign and talking to some people during the last election campaign, I found myself having to correct people who think that the rise in sexual assault, sexual rise, is due to our immigrant population, and I had to remind them that most of these assaults are made by the victim's partner, ex-partner, family, friends, people that are known, and like you've already said, can happen in a domestic situation. Correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Daisley, but I think maybe you were asking for some support in getting that information across to the public, because it is something that we come across. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you're correct in what you say, Councillor Reynolds. Would you like to comment on that?
It might be helpful for me just to read the tail end of the paragraph on the report itself, which states that the increase in recorded sexual offences in Inverclyde is attributable to several factors, including a rise in cyber-enabled sexual offences, an increase in crimes involving under 18s, both in terms of victim and accused, and a rise in sexual offending linked to domestic abuse. 80% of recorded sexual offences occurred within residential premises, with crimes taking place in private spaces rising by 44% year on year. So the largest proportion of that being domestic and cyber related. So yes.
Yeah, and there's no mention of the ethnic community whatsoever. Thank you very much for clarifying that. Bob, Councillor Moran?
I thank Ross. Again, it's the weapon offences that I brought up before, and it's very disappointing to see it's jumped up with 23.5%. And I know it's better life for we give a local community to address it. But last time I brought up, I thought, we've done a relaunch of it for the wider public, because I was here when they launched it originally. And I don't know if it would be up to the police or even the council to have a look at this policy again and maybe a relaunch, because this is the second time that I brought this up. The figures are going up, so there must be a reason for it, and if we could do anything at all to bring the figures back down, then I'd be happy with CLD or whatever. But I just thought that something that's been brought up before and it seemed to have been up again, The other thing was on the shoplifting crimes, and you and I probably both represent the retail centre in Port Glasgow. A lot of that shoplifting I was given to understand was organised crime, who come into the area and they commit a lot of offence. Although reoffending does take place, and people have issues with probably most of them, but certainly there seems to be a focus on, if you've got a big business park there, people will target it. The criminal will target it, and maybe this is part of the problem we've got with the successful Port Glasgow retail park. But on that too, I still don't think that the retailers themselves are doing enough to help the situation. They just press the loss on us. We pay it through every day, begin with. But I think that rank they're talking about is good, but I think really should be a focus on them themselves to try and help their situation. And I've just noticed it being any agreement. I've started a security man, the first I've ever seen that. Maybe a bit too late, but the point is they've recognised it's a problem now and they're trying to do something about it. So I would hope that, you know, with this talk they have with the right, that the retailers fully understand that they do have a place to play in this. It's not down to us and the police. They're the ones that own the stores and they should be putting the right enough protections in to stop the very serious rise in theft that we see.
Thanks, Bob. Would you answer?
For yourself, Roberts, we are engaging with Youthline Scotland, who's responsible for the campaign No Nice Wearing Life. They have got a new programme that they're coming out to get into schools. So we're starting to engage around that. The issue that I've got with that is it's just one school they want to get in, and they've got to be very careful. They're just not targeting one school. So we need to look at more in depth, but we are continuing to engage with Youthline Scotland, who's responsible for this campaign.
That's good. I mean, I don't think they're doing the kids right now.
Before we go back to Chief Superintendent, Colin?
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. It's just a question on 315 of Operation Begonia. If I can just read a wee bit from it. It says, Operation Begonia is a victim-centred intervention programme aimed at supporting vulnerable women out of prostitution, addressing underlying factors such as poverty, substance misuse and exploitation. I think it would be naive obviously not to realise that Inverclyde is an area with a lot of drug abuse, a lot of poverty, and I'll just be careful what I say. It talks about a victim-centred intervention programme. I'm just curious to know how that would work, because we do know with the poverty and drug misuse in Inverclyde, there's a lot of women that are taken out of Inverclyde and exploited. So I'm curious about this centred. Is it an intelligence-led intervention? Is it when these women become known to the police in a criminal way? It's just a wee bit of information on the intervention programme itself.
Yeah, I don't know the specifics around that operation. We don't necessarily have it here. However, I strongly suspect it will be referrals from third sector, from partner agencies, and it will look at pathways out, opportunities. It will be, looking at housing. It will be quite a holistic approach. It will be removing them from whatever connection is keeping them within that place. So it will be a true partnership approach to identify the individuals in the first place, to engage them, to get them supported and in a place where they are able to choose a pathway out, or find a pathway, and it's not a choice, find a pathway out and be supported in that route away from the life they're leading. And it's really challenging. It's not to criminalise. Obviously, they are victims often of trafficking, of sexual offences, of a number of other things, and we really need them to come forward as well, make sure that they know that they are supported and there are other opportunities, and it's certainly, as I say, not to criminalise, and they'll be identified through a number of avenues. That's where partnership hubs are so important, because those concern for person calls, we might come across them. They might be the hospital, it might be the third sector. Really, it'll be a wide-ranging opportunity.
Okay, thanks for that. I suppose that's possibly a question that we need to bring up with the other partners to get more information on that. Thanks, Provost.
Thank you, Carl. I don't see anybody else here in the chamber. I don't see anything else online. Can I thank Chief Superintendent and Chief Inspector for your report. Item 4 on the agenda is the Local Police and Fire Scrutiny Panel update report. You and Ross here. Ross, please.
Thank you, Chair. Report is for noting and provides an overview of key national and local developments across Scotland and Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. Information is drawn from publicly available information such as respective board meetings. And my intention is just to summarise and highlight some key points. On the policing side, the Scottish Police Authority today has approved their draft 26-27 budget, with the investment focused on protecting frontline services, maintaining officer numbers and modernising estates and continued digital transformation. However, it's noted the budget remains challenging, requires savings, and some risks are intimated around future demand pressures and reform activity. Key local issue is the continued development of the police estates master plan with mention of plans for the new Greenock Police Office, and it's noted that a full business case is due to come forward to the respective committee. Police Scotland's annual plan for 26-27 highlights priorities around safer communities, reducing crime, supporting victims, and workforce wellbeing alongside greater use of digital technology and AI. In addition, community policing remains a major focus with early results from the enhanced community model showing improved response times and better engagement with communities, as we've just heard from the Chief Inspector earlier. The report also highlights several operational initiatives, recent enforcement activity targeting organised crime, county lines, drug networks and exploitation have resulted in significant arrests, drug seizures and safeguarding interventions for vulnerable people, including children. Moving on to Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, nationally a major theme has been wildfire preparedness. Following increased wildfire incidents, a new national multi-agency action plan has been launched to improve prevention, coordination and emergency response capability. Public awareness and community engagement remain central to this national work. Locally, members may wish to know the successful Inverclyde Fire Skills course, which was delivered in March in partnership between Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, councils that inclusive community service, schools and other partner agencies, including the Coast Guard and Police Scotland. This helped young people develop teamwork, safety awareness and employability skills. Final point on the Scottish Fire and Rescue Board, which approved the revenue budget for the year and a capital programme through to 2030. While frontline services remain prioritised, some concerns were raised around long-term funding sustainability, workforce pressures and the resilience of the on-call firefighter system. Performance was noted as being overall stable with key safety indicators below average levels, although there was some mention of improvements required in data systems and reporting. So Chair, that just concludes the summary of the report. Any questions?
Thank you, Ross. Ian?
Thank you, Provost. Again, I'm sorry to keep bringing this forward to Chief Superintendent Fraser. She has answered the question, but I just feel we've got to make assurances once again. We look at State Master Plan Update Report, section 3.7, where it says, and this is the kind of worrying part, the full business case is to be considered at a later stage. Have we moved on from that? Have we gone beyond that stage now that we are considering a more, as you have said previously, a more up-to-date, specific, ready to be signed off procedure? And does that include purpose ready-made available custody suites?
So the position that we're in just now is that within estates and within legal, as I've mentioned, we are progressing to the conclusion of the lease. Now, in tandem with that, there are a number of other things. So once that's complete, we will be able to move at pace. So I'm talking about a tender process and looking at layouts and equipment, etc., etc. That is all happening in tandem, so that once we get to the stage where we're in a position to make a release or a launch or whatever that might look like, it won't then be, it won't then be another year before we have to produce a report to be signed off. So hopefully that provides for some reassurances. There is a real appetite in the States to get this concluded, and on my side as well. So it's actually David that's sitting on the working group just now, working through some of those individual issues that hopefully puts us in a much stronger position when we are legally in a more suitable position to make a further disclosure.
Thank you. Ross?
Yeah, through you, Chair. It was just, I thought, worth mentioning that there is a significant time lag between the information that's coming through these board meetings and today. So I think that was the end of March. That recent information, so there will be a visit.
Thanks, Ross. Yeah, it's quite clear that there's plans in the office, and the remiss of you to tell us right now we'll look forward to it in due course when the announcement does come. Robert?
I don't want to continue this point, but at the end of the day, the fire service, the total is that, you know, the new operational method, they've announced it now after there's been an election. Before election, we were told we're getting a new health centre. And all these things, new promises, all seem to be wandering on the rocks. At the end of the day, it definitely does say a full vintage case is to be considered at a later stage. And I've seen this right before. There's nothing definite saying the work will be starting, when's it going to start, how's it going to start. So it is for us to take people on their word, and I said the police board, not these officers sitting here. So then the board have said this. So we have to believe what they're telling us. And quite frankly, until I see it, I don't believe it. Because you and I know the Port Glasgow Health Centre, guaranteed we're going to get one. We're not even going to look at that until 2030. You know, promises made, promises broken. It's always seems to get. So I think we should get to the top of this. Because we deserve a new police station, and so does the staff more than anybody. The else that they need it. So I think it's important that we do keep highlighting it. It might be monotonous to some people, but certainly not us and the people we represent. The other thing I was going to bring up again was the fire board again, and I say they brought the report yesterday. It had been put in touch until after election, so they're going to got radical changes will take place. So there's not a lot we can do right now. But my colleague brought up the on-call system and the risk in 329. It says the board highlighted ongoing workforce challenge include the risks associated with on-call system and the wider staffing pressures. These issues present both our operational and financial risk, particularly maintaining service reliance and meeting demand. Now, I think what you said earlier on, you know, but the on-call system, you know, is it fit for purpose? We don't know until they make the changes. Again, that's something I think we should really maybe keep our eye on, promise, you know. As I say, that as far as the new police station, I think there's somewhere we keep on the agenda. Wow.
Thank you, Bob. We feel your angst. Is there anybody else within the chamber? I don't see anything else online. Can I just thank the officers for their preparation for today's meeting to Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. Thank you for your attendance to Police Scotland. Thank you, you two members. Thank you for your attendance both in the chamber and online. And enjoy the rest of your day.